According to Pantone, the color of 2026 is Cloud Dancer. Okay, Pantone cited that this hue offers a promise of clarity, drawing on this color's long-standing associations with peace, clouds, lilies, and pearls. White often symbolizes blank slates and new beginnings. In most Western cultures, it's the color that's most associated with weddings. Though wedding dresses are a whole topic on their own, so we'll save that for another time. But white is also a surprisingly difficult color to wear. The moment you stain something white, good luck getting rid of it. As a result, this color also represents luxury, the kind of color easiest to maintain when you don't have to worry too much about practicality, but also is associated with being cold, impersonal, and lacking warmth. But it all depends on the context. The color white has different representations across cultures and time periods. Why is white a color of mourning in China? Where did the no white after Labor Day thing even come from? We're going to look into the history of the color white in fashion and pop culture. So now, let's get started. In many ancient cultures, the color white had heavy associations with deities. In ancient Egypt, white was connected to the goddess Isis. Greek mythology associated the color white with healing and protection. Plenty of gods and goddesses were depicted wearing white, Aphrodite in particular. In Norse mythology, white represented luck and victory, while in ancient China, white is the color of mourning, symbolizing ghosts and the soul changing, but also represents protection from evil spirits. Ancient Rome had its own unique relationship with white. The iconic white toga was a symbol of citizenship and social status. In the time of Emperor Augustus, no man in Rome could appear in the Roman Forum without a white toga. This was sort of an ancient tuxedo, prestigious but incredibly uncomfortable and hard to manage, so seeing it in everyday life was rare. In medieval Europe, white was a common color for widows to wear in mourning, where it represented the soul's journey. But during the 16th and 17th centuries, achieving the color white on clothing was difficult and costly. This color was a symbol of the elite that could afford extravagant single-use dresses. In the 18th century, France saw the rise of the chemise à la reine, sometimes called the robe à la Creole. These were lightweight, muslin gowns inspired by the flowing dresses worn by Caribbean and African women. These gowns were simple, soft, and airy, a stark contrast to the heavily structured, ornate fashions of the Rococo era. The Rococo look was receiving a lot of political backlash in the 1780s, so Marie Antoinette adopted a softer, country life-inspired sense of style to show she was one of the people. This brand reinvention was unsuccessful. White dresses would be very popular from the late 18th century to the Regency era. Fashion responded to the excess of Rococo with a massive neoclassical revival. This new style drew heavily on Grecian aesthetics, favoring simplicity, clean lines, and flowing drapery. Natural beauty was emphasized, and a white dress complemented this ideal. It wasn't meant to overshadow the wearer, but to highlight her grace. White dresses were also referenced a few times in Jane Austen novels. In Mansfield Park, Fanny Price worries she's overdressed for a dinner party in white. Her future husband reassures her, a woman can never be too fine while she is all in white. White dresses were also a way of blurring class lines. Poorer women could imitate the fashions of the rich, even if the materials were simpler. Also in Mansfield Park, Mrs. Whitaker fires the maids donned in white for daring to look as stylish as the women they served. By the Victorian era, aside from certain very formal events, darker colors began taking reign in fashion. But with advances in laundering in the late 19th century, the color white became one of the most fashionable colors, especially adopted by the lacy Gibson girl aesthetic starting in the 1890s. By the late 19th and early 20th century, white dresses, especially what were known as lingerie dresses, became associated with upper-class leisure and were perfect for the fresh summer air. White dresses signaled a lifestyle where you didn't spend all the daylight hours working. You were enjoying the outdoors, playing tennis, drinking tea, going to summer resorts, all the turn-of-the-century stuff. And this is where the unofficial no white after Labor Day rule started. This rule operated to separate the wealthy, who could take summers off, from working-class city dwellers. White clothing is only appropriate for summer leisure, not the rainy, muddy, snowy city streets. It was considered inappropriate to wear white after Labor Day to Easter, though realistically, people who followed it most strictly were those really annoying people who got way too invested when a rule isn't perfectly followed. You know what I mean. The color white has been associated with glamour and luxury ever since, and Marilyn Monroe wore a white dress that happens to be one of the most iconic images in movie history, from The 7-Year Itch. The image of her in a white halter dress, standing over a subway grating, is her signature moment. Currently, people more often reference her diamonds number, but for a long time, when people thought of Monroe, they thought of this. This was designed by her frequent costume collaborator, William Trevia, where he called it that silly little dress. In the film, she portrays a dreamlike figure, she doesn't even have a name, credited as the girl, where her signature color is a celestial white. The design is a halter cocktail dress, similar to other styles she wore, but looser and more fluid. Its light, airy construction was intentional for the subway situation, but this cheeky moment didn't go without some minor controversy. A billboard promoting The 7-Year Itch showed Monroe laughing with her dress fluttering. One housewife disapproved. What has Marilyn Monroe got that a million other women have and prefer not to show? And Monroe's husband at the time, Joe DiMaggio, reportedly didn't like the dress, specifically the vulgarity of the subway scene, and it reportedly sparked the end of their marriage, but I think it was more than that. Ever since, this dress has been endlessly referenced and recreated in pop culture, cementing white as not just a symbol of leisure, but as something cinematic. And in the same year, Grace Kelly's role in To Catch a Thief cemented her Ice Queen image. But why does this dress get so rarely acknowledged? The costumes were designed by the legendary Edith Head, who always delivered when it came to creating pictorial elegance. Set aside a sun-drenched Mediterranean resort, Kelly's character is an elegant, aristocratic socialite, refined, composed, and emotionally distant, always dressed in soft, icy tones. Even one of her casual looks appears beautifully curated. And of course she wears the coldest color, white. Her gown is a fitted, floor-length, strapless evening dress. The simplicity accents her costume jewelry necklace, but it looks real. Plus, it's something she'd like. Earlier in the film, she remarks that she doesn't like cold things touching her skin. Its clean lines and structured silhouette communicate old money sophistication, matching her character, controlled and a little cold like the emotional atmosphere. So remember what I said about the color white being really popular in the turn of the century. It was embodied and stylistically updated in My Fair Lady. This story, based on Pygmalion, follows a guy seeing if he can turn a simple girl selling flowers on the street into a refined lady. This experiment starts out rough, but we slowly see how she's becoming more posh. Even her learning curve turns into a musical number. The horse race is the turning point. But in spaces like this, it wasn't about the horses. It was about showing your outfit. The world's first Instagram. The costumes amplify the maximalist tendencies of turn-of-the-century fashion, and then we see the new Eliza Doolittle. She not only speaks eloquently and has the perfect, stuffy mannerisms, but she stylistically matches all the other ladies in the horse race. The look at the time was a decorative parasol with a lacy, form-fitting dress and a large hat, but this hat is massive. The dress is super form-fitting, and the parasol is as frilly as can be. The unwritten rules seem to be to wear white with accents of black, and she fits right in. She almost had them fooled.
Come on, Dover! Move your bloomin' arse!
But there's something slightly off. Her outfit is technically correct, but it's loud, almost overwhelming. It reflects the exaggerated Gibson girl ideal, but not quite her authentic self. She'd wear another white dress for a ball, but this time, this dress is softer and more fluid. The flowy design is more natural. She can freely appear ethereal. The design echoes the relaxed empire silhouette of the early 1910s. And in 1964, when this movie was released, the style came back into fashion. Reportedly, the gown itself was an authentic Edwardian piece, discovered in an antique shop. And OMG, what a find. Interestingly, Pretty Woman was also heavily inspired by My Fair Lady, and for the big before and after makeover sequence, we also see a large hat and white dress. In the same year, What a Way to Go showed a similar looking white dress, but leans more into sparkle and excess. Shirley MacLaine wore 72 costumes, all designed by Edith Head, including that one. She keeps marrying rich guys, and apparently she's cursed in some way. Bad things keep happening to them. At least her closet is going to be massive. But each of these outfits are over-the-top couture glam. There's color and different materials, all in different styles. Arguably the most iconic and heavily marketed look is a silver white dress called the Diamond Dress, adorned with countless Harry Winston jewels. Glitzy, but there's no way that's comfortable. She marries the world's richest man, and once you've reached that level, where can you go from there? Much like this dress, Louisa's life has become cold and restrictive. No more fun accessories, just pure ice. Beforehand, marrying richer and richer guys was fun. She was having a good time, while it lasted. This look is still chic though. While this style can be sort of grounded in reality in certain upscale spaces, the princess dress in Labyrinth is just a fantasy. Jareth creates an elaborate masquerade to distract Sarah and maybe convince her to stay in this world. And would this work on you? Like out of nowhere, you're wearing a ball gown of dreams. It's quite the decision you have to make. Everything about the film is intentionally over the top. It has the 80s dark fantasy aesthetic pushed to its absolute limit. And no, I'm not going to talk about the Jareth situation because this is a classy channel. Sarah's dress takes from different time periods. The voluminous bottom half is reminiscent of 18th century Rococo panniers, while the puff sleeves are very 80s, which in turn was influenced by 1830s Romanticism. At the beginning of the film, Sarah complains about how her life sucks or something, and she wears a Renaissance-esque dress, like something out of a storybook. Now she's given everything she's ever wanted. Who wouldn't want to go to a Rococo masquerade? The color white is reminiscent of a cloud. The layers of tulle, shimmer, and softness create a dreamlike effect, fully indulging her princess fantasy. But Jareth is sneaky like that, so this is all a ruse. Sarah catches onto this, so she runs away. I have a feeling that Disney took some notes from this dress for Dijelle's wedding dress in Enchanted. As the color white continued to be in fashion during the 80s, representing a sleek, luxury-driven aesthetic, the 90s redefined it through minimalism, but when appropriate, still tied to wealth and status. One of the common villains of 90s comedies was the selfish, materialistic woman. Debbie Jelinski in The Addams Family Values takes this trope to a whole new level, a dangerous one. Her backstory says it all. As a child, she slightly overreacted when her parents bought her a Malibu Barbie instead of a ballerina Barbie in a pink tutu. And she wants her relationships to be simple. She wants the best, and does whatever it takes to get it. She's totally not a homicidal maniac. She's a lovely young lady. When the Addams family needs a nanny, Debbie steps in, representing herself as the perfect candidate. Against their dark, gothic aesthetic, Debbie is a pastel villain, looking incredibly prim, resembling the Barbie dolls she grew up with. Her palette features soft colors or white to show her image of false innocence, affinity for luxury, while also signifying her inner emptiness. She sets her sights on Uncle Fester, believing him to be a wealthy bachelor, and of course, plans her usual routine. While her true self is revealed, she wears definitely her best look, a chemise-style gown covered in feathers, evoking 1930s, 1940s Hollywood loungewear, especially with the jewelry for the sake of jewelry. The look is glamorous, but also excessive, showing how she's grandiose, impractical, and obsessed with image. This look was likely intended to be gaudy and sort of tacky, but I think it works even better today with the embrace of camp. There's no problem with desiring love and jewelry. Just don't let it control you. On a more minimalist note, Cher Horowitz wore a white dress in Clueless when she went on a date, which turned out to not really be a date. Given that she is clueless and barking up the wrong tree, Cher's style starts leaning more mature and flirtatious. She wears a Calvin Klein dress that was really designed by Anna Sui, which her dad doesn't approve of because he feels it looks like underwear. And yeah, that might have been the intention. The outfit draws directly from the slip dress trend. Pieces that were once meant to be hidden now becomes the outfit itself. But to get through the door, she puts on a sheer Vivian Lamb shirt. I think this outfit really pops when she did that. Given how she helped others with their romantic lives, she wants to enhance her own. So she steps away from her trademark, girlish, fashion doll look and tries something more easier to comprehend, you could say, like a simple white dress. Her attempts at mature sophistication to start her own love life was unsuccessful. So going from minimalism to maximalism, we see Ginger McKenna from Casino, one of cinema's most iconic mob wives. Set in 1970s Las Vegas, her wardrobe reflects the era perfectly. Glamorous, excessive, unapologetically flashy. One of the costume designers, John Dunn, says, "It was a vintage piece that Sharon Stone had in her own collection. She said, 'Listen, I think I have a great idea. This is a dress I've got. Why don't you take a look at it?' And we tested it and everyone said, 'That's it. We're not going to come up with anything better than that.'" She shines and sparkles like an expensive gem. Her dress is white, which is another layer. It's pristine, but it's fragile. It's easy to stain, hinting at how unstable her life really is beneath all the glamour. In that way, the dress mirrors the illusion of the nouveau-rich luxury she lives in, dazzling on the surface, but never entirely secure. Being taken care of can feel nice, but I can't explain how there's so much risk that comes with that. And on the topic of sparkle, Romeo plus Juliet, in its Baz Luhrmann tradition, was highly stylized, action-filled, and visually intense, with lots and lots of Hawaiian shirts. And interestingly, one of the most famous looks of the film is incredibly calm and celestial. In the costume party where Romeo and Juliet meet, she's literally dressed as an angel, standing out in simplicity. The costume designer, Kim Barrett, intentionally wanted to add little pieces that won't be noticed unless you wear it. On Juliet's dress, which I don't think you can see, I printed written lines from the script in white. Romeo says in the script, "Oh, speak again, bright angel," which is why I dressed her as an angel, but I also printed that dialogue from that scene into her dress with white print. In that line, Romeo was idealizing her, where she's someone almost otherworldly. The white angel dress reinforces that image, visualizing her as an emotional escape from his world of violence and chaos. Romeo is also portrayed as a fantasy, dressed as a knight in shining armor, who will both protect her and allow her to be free. Romeo later gets married in a Prada suit, but he'd fall in love with another girl in Titanic, where this movie had one of the most iconic character introductions. The Titanic itself was designed as the physical manifestation of Edwardian glamour, and there was an unwritten rule that everyone in first class had to embody that. From her large hat, trendy necktie, and parasol, this was a 1910s visual language of the elite. This image from a Le Mode magazine from January 1912, 3 months before the Titanic departed, was the inspiration for this outfit. From this clearly expensive look and purchasing paintings by Picasso, it's likely that she just returned from a trip to Paris, the global fashion capital. This is a walking suit. Everything is straight and structured on top. And while the bottom isn't exactly a hobble skirt, it is reflective of the more form-fitting silhouette of the early 1910s. And with the corseted construction, this appears to be something that Rose's mother wants her to wear instead of what she likes. I am going to be extra. The white and stripes of her dress is reminiscent of an old-fashioned prison uniform. She's only engaged to Hockley because he's her and her mother's last chance of financial survival. Though when she meets Jack, she more and more starts dressing how she likes. A more flowy empire silhouette. And I just realized the same thing happened with My Fair Lady. There might have been some inspiration with that. This dress looks like something a princess would wear. Like Amelia, Mignonette, Thermopolis, Rinaldi, Princess of Genovia. At the start, she isn't nearly as refined and graceful as her grandmother, Queen Clarence of Genovia, but this movie was low-key traumatizing for curly hair. But as the movie progresses, we see her becoming more stylish and poised. She makes her royal debut in a blue empire-cut dress, inspired by the Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden. The style is a bit mature for her age, and she doesn't seem to be feeling herself, and everything turns into a disaster. When she attends the ball in a wet grunge look, she gets fixed up, and we finally see her in full princess mode. She has a glamorous hoop skirt silhouette, opera gloves, and delicate embroidery. The color white adds to the simplistic sophistication, but nonetheless, this is still the princess fantasy. This is her new final form, and she looks comfortable and confident. And that's the key difference. She hasn't changed who she is, but became the best version of herself. This dress reminded me of the dress from Sabrina, another famous makeover movie, and the producers mentioned that they specifically were looking for the next Audrey Hepburn, so this might have been a quiet reference. Also, Mia finds her true love. He saw her when she was invisible. Aww. Only they broke up. That's high school for you. Uptown Girls is a movie about growing up. In the midst of going through a quarter-life crisis, Molly Gunn's do-whatever-you-want life is halted when her trust fund is embezzled. The glamorous world she always relied on is slipping away. But her style doesn't completely change. She isn't wearing anything new, but she continues dressing the way she always has. Playful, whimsical, and casually glamorous. While on a day out in the city, she wears what is called the doll dress by Moschino, cheap and chic. I'm not sure if the origin design is a skirt or not, but the style is just fun. Even when she's going through a hard time, she retains her fun, whimsical personality. The dress still carries some traces of rich girl glamour. Wearing a white dress in New York City is a risky move, but on a nice warm day, why not preserve a bit of fantasy? Now, the movie Pink Panther, not Pink Pantheress, was another installment of Beyoncé's acting career. I just remembered this meme. She plays, what else? A pop singer, with a Beyoncé aesthetic. Lots of gold, lots of shimmer, reminiscent of Rita Hayworth and You Were Never Lovelier. But this white dress is what stood out to me. With the hat and shades, this look embodies effortless summertime luxury. Relaxed, glamorous, and expensive in a cinematic way. This movie really wanted to recreate classic 60s caper cinema, so having a glamorous diva drifting through scenes in a silky white dress fits perfectly within that fantasy. Speaking of chicness, Jennifer's check aesthetic embodies the popular, aspirational cool girl in the late 2000s. Her style pulls from mall fashion with influences from Chinese and Japanese street fashion. Candy colors, minis, cardigans. And of all her looks in Jennifer's body, the most iconic is the prom dress. The gown itself was designed by Jessica McClintock, the queen of prom fashion, and helped popularize Gunny Sacks, known for its romantic, Victorian, and Edwardian-inspired designs. Jennifer's dress reflects those influences clearly. The Empire silhouette recalls the early 1910s, while the opera gloves, choker, and delicate black lace striping adds an Edwardian feel. It's as if she's a ghost from another time, an apparition from another era. And given how delicate this dress looks, it matches how insecure she really is. She constantly puts Needy down because she feels it's the only way she can have something for herself. And wearing white in such a violent, grimy setting adds extra stress. She's never seeing that dress again, except for when Halloween comes around. The color white in fashion has often been associated with luxury, but in film it could also symbolize emptiness. That's why the color white in fashion remains so iconic, visually minimalist, but emotionally loaded. Which white outfit from pop culture or the runways is your favorite? Thank you all for watching, and hope to see you all in the next one.